All right, so we were just talking about your wedges, and first the bounce. Remember, less bounce is better for tight lies that are firm, and more bounce is better for soft lies that are wet, right? Because then when it's wet, the club comes down and will slide along that wetness, and or instead of digging into the mud, right? The bounce prevents the dig into the mud. And if you use a lot of bounce when you have a dry lie, it could ricochet off the ground and bounce into the ball if you miss hit. But remember, the bounce is there to save you if you miss hit. You should be trying to hit ball first and really not even need the bounce as a thing, And then, like we said, from 0 to 60 yards, you should be using your 58 degree. And then once you hit 70, 80, maybe 90, I don't know what your yardages are, then you should be using the S. And then you should eliminate the 54 that you have because that's 10 degrees of bounce, which is a difficult sand wedge to use unless you were playing at like Arroyo every time, where Arroyo, it's like terra firma. It's like super firm turf, which you're not. You're playing at some of the courses that are muddier and softer. So it doesn't make sense to play the 54 with 10 degrees of bounce. If you at some point in the future didn't like the S, then you should get 54 replacement with 14 degrees of bounce instead of 10, because 10 is not really enough generally for California, because like I said, the turf out here gets wet, gets muddy, and then the turf is sticky. There are some places in the world that the turf is actually slidey. It's like slippery, and like when the club hits, it just slides along the ground. That's when the bounce really helps us. And I think that covers it, right? Is that most? Oh, the last thing is the only other variable would be uh, choosing the club for the roll that you're going to get, right? So if you're playing a course and the greens are super slow and everything keeps stopping and it's not releasing, and you're planning that, and you don't want to have to carry it all the way to the pin, then you could potentially take the 54 and it will roll more, right? But most people tend to struggle with too much roll than not enough roll. But if you were always leaving it short and never getting it past the pin, then you could potentially argue that maybe using the 54 or the S would be better to get the roll, depending on the course. But if you're playing a fast course like a country club and they're super fast, then you're probably going to want the 58 because the roll is so significant.